My dog's about to throw up. Give me
Oh no. Oh, okay.
Of course, everything happens when I'm recording.
Right, of course.
Like, Nancy is like, here we go with another mess.
Sabrosura pa' ti que.
The emails were pouring in from places she had never expected. Her article made all the rounds. Strangers were writing just to say thank you. Invitations landing from rooms she had spent years trying to get into. The whole world finally learning her name. Yai, right there, at the peak of being seen. Her body said one word. Nope. She's a brand scientist. She coined the word under recognition for what happens to the people the world is trained to overlook. And she's used it to advise everyone from corner shops to the first refugee delegation to the UN, which is the part that actually makes you think. Because the woman who teaches the world how to see people, who built her whole identity on being able to outwork anyone in the room, almost worked herself out of existence. A doctor told her 2 more weeks and she wouldn't have been here. Today, she's here to talk about what lives in the gap. The difference between being seen by everyone and being kept alive by the one part of you that refuses to perform. And stay to the end because she's going to show us where real power actually hides. And it's almost never the person everyone's looking at. Yo soy Pam Covarrubias, and this is Café con Pam. Pull up your cafecito, porque this one is for the one who was taught her worth is measured in how much the work cost her. And for the one who's starting to wonder if that was ever true. One thing before we close. At the very top, I told you real power almost never sits with the person everyone's looking at. Here's what I meant. Remember the executive assistant, the one who quietly decides whose message actually reaches the boss, the one I called under-recognized but powerful. Chloé actually sent me an email after we stopped recording because that was a question she wanted to answer, and we had already wandered somewhere else. So here's the answer. And I'm quoting Chloé. So this is what Chloé said. That assistant isn't demonstrating influence. She's demonstrating power. And she's precise about the difference. Influence, the way she defines it, is the capacity to shape what people believe, judge, and decide. Power is bigger. It's the capacity to change or constrain the actions available to someone else. Influence is one kind of power, but it isn't the only kind. So, when that assistant lets a rude person's request quietly die in the inbox, she's not necessarily persuading anyone of anything. She's simply closing a door. And in that case, that's not influence, that is power. And a whole lot of us are holding more of it than we were ever taught to notice. Chloé, welcome back to Café con Pam.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes. Second time? Yeah, no?
Third
Third?
time, I think, actually.
Third time.
Yes.
I think so too. Yeah, I was like, wait, this is awesome. I love recurring guests. But this time around, we are coming on a YouTube exclusive.
Yes, this is my first YouTube exclusive. I'm delighted.
I
Yes.
know. So tell us what's happened since we last spoke. I'm pretty sure when we last talked is when your HBR
Article had
came
come
out.
out. I think
Yeah.
so, actually. I think so. I mean, things have, how have things changed? Things have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot, just by virtue of the passage of time, but also because that article opened a whole lot of doors for me and also just opened my mind in a lot of ways that I hadn't been expecting, the process of writing that article, it sort of brought me back to my first love of like diving into research and connecting dots between things that I'm seeing and then communicating all of that, right? So I started doing more and more of that. And actually recently I had a peer-reviewed article come out that I
Yay!
co-authored. Yeah.
We talked about it when
Yes,
we caught
we
up.
did.
So it's out now.
It is out now. It has come out recently. I'm very excited about it. And in it, I got to share the research that I've done about, what I speak about in the article, under recognition, and the ways that the causes and costs of under recognition show up in institutions. So like it's been the work has grown, it's blossomed, it's matured. Um, yeah, yeah. So that's pretty much what you missed last time on Glee.
I love that. So, in between, you also were ill.
Yes.
And I heard somewhere that when you were dealing with this, the doctor said if you had waited 2 more weeks, you wouldn't have lived.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that dichotomy of someone who talks about the invisible currency of influence.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We'll develop that.
We'll get into that.
But as someone who works on under recognition and the recognition,
Mm.
how was it to see yourself in that place where it's almost like out of your control? You were ill,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
could you do something? Yes, but you were at that point in that moment. There wasn't a quick fix. How did you
Yeah.
face it?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So this is a really good question because this, like the what turned out to be a collection of chronic illnesses that sort of came to a head all started coming to a head just as like interest around the HBR piece like was cresting, right? So like
Whoa.
I was hearing from people from all walks of life, like just the weirdest possible places who were like, "Oh my gosh, your article made the rounds here. I'm just reaching out to say thank you, all of this. Would you come in and have a talk?" Like all of this stuff was happening. And then my body was just like, "No,
You need to chill.
yeah, no, no." And for someone who had prided herself and founded a lot of her identity on being able to outgrind, outwork, like
Yes.
this was a blow. This was a blow for me. And I was frustrated and really angry for a while. I'll be frank. I'll be, honest about that. But I think also what I remembered and came to peace with is the fact that my body is just trying to keep me alive.
Mm,
That's its job, right? And I should be on the same page with it, at least as far as that is concerned, right? I should also be trying to keep myself alive and be supporting it so that it can do that job appropriately. And so that's when I started because, my health team after like we got my life out of danger was like, things are going to have to change in your life. You just know that.
yeah,
That's when I started doing these micro sabbaticals.
which
Um,
I love. I quote you on those too.
they're probably the best thing I've ever done for myself. And so for the uninitiated who are listening, I take a week off every month for R&R, rest and research.
Mm,
And I do this every month. And I will rest until I'm not tired anymore. And then I will do research. I'll catch up on papers. I'll connect dots. I'll do writing, right? Like things that when I'm working with clients or I'm, giving a talk or whatever it happens to be, um, that I don't have the time to do, but that are the lifeblood of the work I do, right? And gosh, how many years has this been going on? I want to say we're probably coming up on 3 or 4 years of doing this. And it's a crazy thing. Like I hear myself as I talk about it. It's a crazy thing, but my business didn't suffer, like I'm making more now than I did before. Um yeah, it and my health has been it's restored. That's the
mm.
thing.
And that's what's important.
That's what's important, right? And I've watched the amount of time that I've needed to rest in those R&R weeks get shorter and shorter and shorter.
Nice.
Before it would be like the whole week and I'd barely get any time for like the research part of it, right? But over the years I've seen it do this. I've seen it shrink.
So you can recover faster.
Exactly. I'm recovering faster. I'm not as tired going into the weeks. Like it's just It's so good. And so I tell all of my friends about this, all of my peers about this, and everyone who does micro sabbatical, it doesn't always look the way that I do it, right?
Right.
I know a person who does it now like once a quarter and she's like, this is so yes, I love this, right? So it can look however you want it to, but that's really what sort of helped me get my mind right around what was
Mm,
going on and helped me reacclimate to a new normal that didn't have to be awful and in fact is kind of awesome. So,
totally. It's so free.
yeah.
And I think as minoritized bodies and
Mhm.
underrecognized bodies,
Uh-huh.
to quote Nara, we are seen, like for me, I'll speak for myself as a Latina,
Mm.
I'm seen as a working body.
Yes, yes.
Like I'm socialized as like physical labor. Like
Correct.
oftentimes you see the like who feeds you post of
Exactly.
like all of the agriculture workers who are like physical, arduous like work.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for the people, but I think in some like interesting way, that's a form of programming people
Yes.
like me to be like, that's who we see you as,
Correct.
not to dismiss the labor because
Mhm.
I'm grateful for the lettuce that I get to eat that someone's hands picked.
Mhm.
And at the same time, when I see those videos, I'm like, this is who I'm supposed to be,
Mhm.
like very subconsciously, no?
Yes. Yes.
And so when I hear you talk about the first time we talked about it, I was like, it like my brain glitched a little, right? Because I'm like, what do you mean you take a week off? And so, so I like you inspired me to do a quarterly
Mm.
sabbatical, like I call them retreats,
Oh, good, good, good.
because it's like the body does need to be restored, and we need to remove that programming of people like us are always overworked.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I love what you mentioned that now you make more money by working less,
Yes.
because it also shows, and I think for all of us listening, evidence that hours work don't always equal money earned.
Correct. Correct. Yes, 1,000% this. And in fact, it gets to a point where there's sort of diminishing returns.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, girl. The things I can say. I I will just say that one of the best things that I ever did for myself, not just as an entrepreneur, right? But as a Black woman living in what we now call the United States of America, right? Was detaching my how do I put this? Detaching the extent to which my labor was grueling,
Mm,
right? Like detaching that metric
mhm.
from the money I was making, right? That
Yes.
uncoupling those two things. And it's not to say that I don't work, right? I do, but the the effectiveness, the potency of my work is not measured by how much it cost me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so that decouple is
How long did it take?
oh gosh. Yeah, it took at least a year. It took at least a year. And I'll be honest that I didn't start with taking the weeks off right away. I started small because I was just even I now
Totally.
like I was like absolutely not. That's an insane thing that like you're imagining right now. I started by saying okay, like I won't have meetings on Mondays, right? And then I said, oh, I'll have a half day on Fridays, right? Like
Mm.
started with tiny things like that
Mhm.
and then built up to now where yeah, a week off every month. And guess what? I still don't have meetings on Mondays and I still have half days every Friday, right? Just giving myself space.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I love that. And I think often of my mom who owned a business, she's like,
Mm,
work is always gonna be there.
mhm,
But your
mhm.
time and your health
Yeah.
and your joy
Mhm.
just it's right now.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah. And they need to be cultivated and protected.
Oh, so protected. So let's talk about the invisible currency of influence. Tell us more about it.
Yes. 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 Yes.
What does that mean?
First, I'll start by defining what influence is, right? So when I say influence, because like lots of people hear that word, especially underrecognized folks, and they're like, "Excuse you?
Right.
No, I don't want influence. No, I don't want that."
Yes.
You do. You do. Influence is just the capacity to shape the judgments, beliefs, and actions of others. That's all it means. It's very neutral, okay? And so, and anybody who is doing anything, whether or not they're running a business, whether or not they are working at a company, whether or not they are trying to make the world a better place, wants influence because that is what is required to move people, right? And so, like, if we want our ideas to matter, especially when and where decisions are being made, you need influence. Like, that's literally what it is, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, what I found is that people tend to try to show up in front of as many of the right people as possible in order to cultivate influence, right? Like, we
Mm.
try to become more visible so that we can be more influential.
But that's authority.
Listen, girl. It could be depending on a few factors. Oh, we don't have time for what I have to say. We don't have
Okay.
time.
Okay.
But what my research has shown me is that unfortunately that's not how human brains work,
Mm.
right? That you can show up everywhere and still have no influence over the actions people take as a result,
Yes.
right? So what I want to do actually really quickly is I want to try something.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Star Wars?
Not enough. My David will cringe.
Yeah, no, not the deep lore. No, not the deep lore of it. I mean, like the level of familiarity where if I say Darth Vader, you wouldn't be completely
I
lost.
know who that is. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So for the uninitiated, for those who are listening and you're like, nope, not me. Star Wars, at least the original trilogy, is the story of a rebellion against an evil empire.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hero at the center of it with mysterious powers who
Mm-hmm.
leads the fight and saves the galaxy. Simple, okay?
Yes.
That's the story.
Yes.
Now, I want to try something. On the count of 3, I am going to reveal the name of that hero. Can your brain beat me there before I do?
Mm.
Maybe it already has. So picture in your head the answer. You don't have to say it out loud, but picture the answer in your head.
Mm.
And those who are listening, do the same.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Leo Organa.
Oh.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So. Now, folks who are watching this, listening, might think that somewhere in there our wires got crossed, right? Especially since Princess Leia didn't have mysterious powers or lead the fight to save the galaxy. Except she did.
Okay.
What this exercise is meant to show us, right, is that you pictured somebody else when you pictured the hero of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Princess Leia is everywhere, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, who wouldn't love the exposure of Princess Leia? Everyone wants that level of exposure. You say Princess Leia, and most people are like, "Oh, I know who that is," like the buns and the metal bikini, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so the thing that we realize through Princess Leia is that, again, you can show up everywhere and still not have the kind of influence that you want to have,
Ooh.
right? Because what we remember, buns, bikini. We don't remember her as the hero of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
We don't remember her as the person who led the rebellion,
Mm-hmm.
even though she is one of those people, right? So, what this means is that for those of us who say, okay, I'm going to show up in front of as many of the right folks as possible so that I can cultivate influence, what that means is that what we just observed happening to Leia in real time can and often is happening to us.
Totally.
In order to avoid that, in order to like figure out how to not be that person, we got to figure out what was going on with Leia, like what was happening with her.
Mm.
That brings me to this idea that exposure, as necessary and as ubiquitous as it feels, is not going to save us.
Oof.
And it's not going to be the thing that gives you influence.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So more eyes don't equal more influence.
Correct. Correct. It's not more eyes that equal more influence. Unfortunately, even though that's what we've been told, right?
Correct. And this is why the chase of virality.
Yes, exactly. Even that won't equal more influence, right? Here's what's sort of happening beneath the surface, here's what's happening in the brain, right? When somebody has exposure, when somebody's in front of a lot of eyes, what's happening is representation, right? You are
Mm-hmm.
appearing in front of others, right? Or your idea or your work is appearing in front of others, right? And so what's happening in the brain is that whatever this thing is, it's perceived. And then it has to contend with the brain's kung fu filters, basically, right? The brain's
Mm-hmm.
filters are sort of like, do we let you in here or not? Like,
Yes.
maybe not, right? So that's what's happening when something is represented. The next step up from that is when something is remembered,
Mm.
right? And so that's when something gets past those kung fu filters and it gets stored in long term memory. Now, imagine long term memory is just like a galaxy of stars.
I love that visual.
Yeah, it's great, right? And in this galaxy of stars, there are neighborhoods, there are groupings, there are constellations, right? And so what happens when something gets past the kung fu filters and is remembered is that it's stored in one of those constellations. That's all that that means,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we've gone through 2 points, right? Leia, was she represented? Yeah, totally. She was on set and she was in the movie,
Yep.
right?
And people know her name.
Exactly, and people know her name, right? Was she remembered? Yes, she absolutely made it into long-term memory, right? Space buns, bikini. We remember her name, right?
People do Halloween costumes about
Of
her.
her, right? All the time.
Yeah.
But again, we still think of someone else when we think of the hero of Star Wars. Why is that? It's because of the next level up. And that is recognition. Your work is recognized when it's remembered, yes, but it's remembered at the right time by the right people in the right way.
Oof.
That's what recognition is, right? It essentially means that when people are making a decision, they pull up a piece of that galaxy on like a map, right? Think of it as like a star map. They pull it up and they consult it and they make their decision. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're recognized, it means that you are on the star map that people are considering as they make their decision to move forward.
Okay. I have questions, but go on, go on.
So, was Leia recognized? Not quite. Not quite. And that's because she was represented one way, right? Like, yes, we saw the buns and the bikini, but we also see that she's a princess. She's a literal politician.
Right.
We saw the first time we see her, she's a literal spy, like literally a spy. And we see her throughout that trilogy advising other members of the rebellion, right? So she's represented that way, but she's
Not
remembered
recognized.
and recognized a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say that recognition, not exposure or representation, not even being remembered, recognition is the invisible currency of influence. So the more recognition you have, the more influence you have.
I think as you're sharing the story of Leia, I often think about like in the corporate space, for example, like
Hmm.
the executive assistant is the one with the most power, but the most
Yes,
under recognized, right? Like
correct.
the CEO, sure, they sign the final thing, but
Hmm.
truly who influences the decisions many times, who is the gatekeeper of things, who
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
lets things come through or not the door
Yeah.
is the EA.
Hmm.
And more times than not, I mean, it's the most under recognized. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. Now let me think through this.
Because I think of times when I have pitched myself to go to an
Mm,
event, for example,
mm, mhm.
and they say, "Oh, we already have a Latina coverage."
Yep. Mhm, mhm.
And I'm like, "So?"
And your point is you also already have a white person. Yeah, yeah. Like you
Well,
already
I'm sure
have
you have 40 white people,
yeah,
like,
so
and so
yeah.
is the recognition external or internal?
Mhm.
How could someone I'm thinking it parallel to my framework, which I
Mhm,
talk about
mhm.
certainty.
Yeah, yeah.
And so in my case, when I talk to leaders, first gen leaders, we talk about I say you don't need any more confidence.
No.
Because we were like the ways culturally we were raised, like there's no way that you're not confident, like
Yeah, yeah.
many times we grow up with like bullies in our families, like you just need to you have the grit for it.
Yeah, you figured it
And
out.
so
Yeah.
confidence is not what we need.
Yeah.
We need certainty because certainty is foundational. Certainty comes
Mm,
from within.
mm.
And when you're certain, then you can lead from that foundation and that rootedness that's connected to who you are, what you believe in,
Yeah.
what you stand for, what you stand against. And
Yeah.
regardless, I see it like a tree. So if you're fully rooted, then it
Mm,
doesn't matter how much the wind is winding, how
mm.
like windy it is outside. You're certain of who you are and you're not questioned. And so when you lead from certainty, confidence just becomes inevitable.
Yeah.
So with that frame in mind, because it's what I always talk about, thinking about recognition and
Yeah.
an influence, is it internal or external? And how could people shift it so that they are more, I mean, in like simple terms, like seen with the and recognized
Yeah.
how they want to be recognized, not how they're expected to be recognized.
Yeah. See that part. This is a great question. It is pretty much my entire work. And okay, so my answer to your first question is it's both, right? It is absolutely internal recognition and it is absolutely external recognition, right? Um there is the part of recognition that is the sort of cognitive process that I described, right? Like being remembered by the right people at the right time in the right way. And this is something that you can do for yourself, right? Remembering who the heck you are, right?
Yes.
This is also something that other people do, right? Like, and that influences their behaviors, right? Just like it would influence your behaviors, right? And
Yes.
that's sort of the link between recognition and influence, right? Which is connected to behavior. So yes, it's absolutely both. It's internal and it is external. As for how, goodness.
I know. It's a whole thesis there.
How is my whole thing? How long do you have?
Well, maybe give us like the high level process. Like,
Yeah,
is the first step to self recognize that if I'm Leia, do I
yeah.
need to recognize that I'm seen as just the princess and not the actual spy who's like leading the resistance? Like, do I need to see that first? Do I need to become more assertive? You know?
Okay, I see what you're saying. So, yes, and also not necessarily, right? So with Leia, I don't know her life. I don't even necessarily know that she wanted it like by the end of things. I don't even know if she wanted influence or like I don't know what she wanted, right?
Yep.
But if I'm thinking about the version of her that we first meet immediately, the very spunky, like took you all long enough to come and save me, like
Mm-hmm.
energy, right?
Yep.
Then then yes, I think that that internal recognition was necessary or is necessary first, right? And
Mm.
so when I talk about neutralizing under recognition specifically, the thing that I tend to tell people to do is to build what I call an ecosystem of influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this ecosystem of influence has three parts. The first part is a platform, right? And so that platform it's basically just people's obvious reason for like buying in, picking, like whatever thing you want to choose, right? Buying into your vision for the future, right? And that platform requires that internal recognition. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
first step. You can't build a platform if you don't have that internal recognition first, right? So yes, 1,000% that internal recognition needs to come first. And then that influences your behaviors as far as what it is that you are building and how you're communicating it, right? So that's the platform. That's the first piece of an ecosystem of influence. Then you want to build a circle of recognition. And that's just your network. It's just your network, but it's your network structured around a specific behavior, right? Usually it's
Mm.
recognition, but it can be something else, right? And so what this means essentially is that neutralizing under recognition is not something that one does alone, right? Because what you're trying to do is create a new normal, right?
Yeah.
The normal way of things is to under recognize people like you and people like me. And so to neutralize that, you are trying to create a new normal, and that requires others, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's why a circle of recognition is required, and you have to make sure that it's structured to spread behaviors, not just ideas, right? All of these things, right?
Yes.
The final piece of an ecosystem of influence is decision architecture. And all that means is you need to have something in place that sort of consensually nudges people towards the behaviors that we want to see, right? So you've got this circle of recognition, right? So now you need to have something in place so that, that gatekeeper or every single gatekeeper that comes through your circle is nudged gently and again consensually towards what would help this platform spread, right, and grow.
Mm.
Um, and that's what an ecosystem of influence is. Um, so yeah, that's what you need. That's what I would say. Like that's the process. And yes, it absolutely starts with that internal recognition. Yeah.
So important. And does that take us to social gravity?
Absolutely it does. Because the thing that you are trying to create when you are neutralizing under recognition, or the thing that you are trying to do when you are neutralizing under recognition, is creating social gravity. In fact, anytime that you are trying to change how things are done, you are trying to create social gravity. And social gravity is just that collection of social forces that creates and maintains new normals, right? It it draws people towards ideas that we would like to see them adopt and influences them towards behaviors that we would like to see them also adopt, right?
That feels like a lot of work.
It can be, but that's why you don't do it alone. That's why you don't do
Yes.
it alone, right? And so the ecosystem of influence that I just described, that's the system that you use to build social gravity. That's it.
But it starts with a self-informed decision.
Yes, absolutely. It starts with that initial recognition internally with the self, right? Um, and if you think about it from like a structural perspective, social gravity is just influence at scale.
Mhm.
That's all that it is, right? And so what you're doing with an ecosystem of influence is you are building recognition at scale so that you can produce influence at scale. And once you do that, you have social gravity.
I love that. We have so much. I have so many questions. Like, this is so
Okay.
good. Is what I'm hearing that virtually anyone is capable of having social gravity?
Yes.
Could people be in some way have fear around it? Like,
Yes.
because I see it in my work
Mm.
because I do a lot of internal like nervous system
Yeah.
subconscious work reprogramming.
Which thank the Lord for that. Truly, like
A lot. And because of the way we've been socialized for a long time, what I see is that when people realize of their power, there's this fear that comes because the brain is like, it's not safe.
yes. Yep.
And so, what would you say to the person that's hearing this social gravity concept and they're like, oh, like what if,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Do you see it in your work? Like, do you see
I
people
do. I do. And
do
so
it
this
and they're
is,
like, oh,
yeah, which is why I want to be careful. I would tell you, because I don't want to gaslight you, right? You are not wrong,
mm,
right? The system is hardwired to defend itself, right? The cognitive systems that we have, the social systems that we have, right? The infrastructure that exists around us, everything is hardwired to defend the status quo, right? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there will be absolutely no consequences and everyone will kumbaya off into the sunset should you, an underrecognized person or organization, decide that, you know what, it's time that these ideas get the recognition and buy-in that they deserve. We're going to build social gravity, right? I'm not going to tell you that will never, ever, ever happen, because that's not true and it would be irresponsible of me to say so.
mm,
And what I will say is it is important to have folks like you, like Pam, in your life to help you extricate the part of the fear that you have that is purely an understandable self protective instinct, and the
mm-hmm,
part of it that is actually a genuine response to something that you are seeing in the present, um, and signals that you are getting about the near future. Those things need to be disentangled, I think.
yes.
And I think that once they are, and I can speak for myself, right? Once they are, you become a lot more clear headed about the cost benefit analysis that you do, right? Is it worth it to me that this idea, that this work changed the world?
Mm,
Sometimes the answer is no. And if the answer is no, valid. But if the answer is yes, well,
get to work.
exactly. Yeah.
So fun. We could like keep digging deep into these concepts, and I think all of this work is so necessary. Another thing that I'm curious is how do you deal with the dominant culture?
Mm, yep.
Because there's and I like ever since I found out about it, I think listeners are like tired of it, but there's this research that academics, which I love academics,
Mm.
have done called presumed incompetent,
Yes,
and
yes.
how like when Latina, this is like I think Latinas and Black women, so minoritized humans walk into rooms
Mm,
immediately because of the external
yep.
factors of how we present.
Mhm.
You are automatically presumed incompetent.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so this is where like I think about not just like the internal narrative that we've been fed, but also the external evidence that is placed based on other people's
Yeah.
socializations, ideals,
Mhm.
beliefs, systems, etc. And so how does one contrast that as like I think of myself walking into like networking events, for example, and like
Mhm. Mhm.
and this is like where sometimes I'm like ignorance is bliss because now that I know about like the presuming competent thing, I'm like, how many of you are thinking that I'm dumb?
Yep, 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 yep. Yeah, yeah.
So how does one kind of like maintain the social gravity? There, like how could I, for example, maintain my own social gravity and lead with my certainty as
Mm,
I walk into places that may not
mm.
have awareness of who I am because they're not familiar with me.
Yeah, yeah, 1,000%. So, this idea of being presumed incompetent just because of who you are is very much a facet of what I call the invisibility tax, right?
Mhm.
So, that extra bit of resources that underrecognized folks are made to pay by society in order to be visible at all, and especially to be as visible as their peers, right? So,
Yes.
this is one of those things, right? That, like, when you choose to be visible in any way, make a bid for representation, and then being remembered and then eventually recognition, people immediately presume that you are incompetent until proven otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my answer to this is that social gravity is something that you build in stages,
Mm.
right?
To be patient.
Yes, exact patience, yes, of course, but also in this hyper specific instance that you've discussed, right? What I do and what I advise my clients to do is to walk in, especially with this facet of the invisibility tax, walk in as if everyone already knows that you are competent.
So lead with certainty.
Exactly, exactly. There are certain facets of the invisibility tax which, like, yes, act as if this does not exist, right? And this is one of them. There are other facets where I'm like, no, this is something you need to draw attention to. And this is something that we need to strategize and plan around. But
Mm.
with presumed incompetence, this is one of those things that I say, actually, pretend that it doesn't exist.
Mm.
Act as you would without that being in the room and leave it to the other person to have egg on their face.
Yes.
That's what I would say.
I love that. I have to ask you this because, as the brand scientist who
Mhm.
works on social gravity, recognition, all your awesome concepts, you abbreviate your first name.
I do. Yes. Yes, I
And
do.
so, tell me more about it.
Yeah, yeah. So the thing that I eventually realized with my first name is that it is a privilege.
Mm. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, access to my first name and access to that part of me is a privilege. It's something that I realized that if I'm going to continue on the path that I am on, I'm going to become more and more of a public figure than I have been in the past. And there are certain parts of myself that I necessarily will keep private or keep to a select few. And it's not to say that there's a necessarily an insanely high barrier to get
Mhm.
access, right? But to get access, you have to get my consent first.
Yes.
And so that's why I abbreviate my first name. That I want it's there, right? Don't mistake, like, I'm not hiding it. It is there,
Yeah.
and I'm not putting it away for anyone's comfort. But I am reserving it. I'm reserving it. And so that's why that's sort of the medium that I've taken.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think it's a powerful way to say, I'm claiming it however I want to,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's not it's not for you to decide
Exactly.
how, like, I'm showing up how I want to, and if I want to, then I'll give it to you, and if not, then deal
Exactly.
with it.
Exactly. Exactly, right? And it happens semi rarely, right? But a
Mm,
person will ask me like, "Oh, what's your first name?" And I'll assess whether or not I want to give someone access to that particular privilege. And if I do, if I assess that they are trustworthy, if they are someone who will treat that like the gift that it is, then I do. I share it, and I even tell a really cute little story to help them understand how to pronounce it because it's a beautiful name. It's a gorgeous name. Yeah.
is that part of your own is that part of Chloe's social gravity to also
Mm.
say, my agency is to also self-select in a way what I get to share and who do I share it with?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, yes, I think that when it comes to the new normal that I am trying to build and maintain in and around my work and ideas, yes, the idea of, um, I mean, consent is one of my core values, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so the idea of saying that consent exists everywhere,
Yes.
and as a result should be respected everywhere, is absolutely something that is part of the new normal that I'm trying to create. And so that self-selection is part of how I'm doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really powerful because as bodies of the global majority
Mm-hmm.
continue to live life and build their currency of influence,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, I think it's like you just modeled in a really beautiful way that each person's currency of influence may look different based on their capacity, based on
Correct.
their tolerance,
Yes.
based on their like flavor of just what they can tolerate or not, and how
Yes.
much they want to own that part of it. Like, there's parts of my story that I haven't shared publicly because it is a privilege,
Yes. Yes.
you
Yes.
know?
Exactly.
Like, I don't share David, for example. I
Mm.
don't like he's my partner. He like that's my personal life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know about everything else, and people talk
Yeah.
to me like in my case, they're like, "Is he real?" Or like, "Did we just hear like a random like AI generated voice?"
The cheek, the gumption, the gall.
And I'm like, "Well, like in my case, my husband's a privilege."
Yeah.
You know
Exactly.
that it's mine and I don't share that.
Yeah.
And so in your case, it's your first name. And so I think thank you for modeling the fact that as we build that social gravity,
Mm.
we are also in charge of what it looks like.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. 1,000%. 1,000%.
Really powerful.
We are.
Yeah. Well, Chloe, tell us all the places and spaces where we can find you. What's next for you?
Yes. Okay. Goodness gracious. Well, I think the first thing that I will say is that if this conversation about social gravity was very interesting to you, then I'm sure we can have like a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we will.
I have a navigator that will tell you where you are on your journey towards building social gravity, and it'll give you your best next step from that
Fun.
point. So, if you have questions, like please consult the navigator. And the thing that it will also do, but only with your consent, is it will add you to my publication, the Recognition Review, where I talk about recognition, I talk about influence, and how these things are actually built, especially when you're underrecognized.
Mm,
And I respond to every response, like every email that I get when I send out a lab note for the recognition review, I respond. So if you have questions, like take the navigator, join the review, and send me your questions and I will respond. Um,
perfect.
yeah. You can also find me on LinkedIn where I'm doing my nerdy best. So please connect with me there as well.
Amazing. And we'll have all the links in the show notes for sure. What's next for you? What's coming up that we can be excited about?
That's a good question. I have I'm writing a piece on social gravity, actually. Um,
Fun.
I cannot yet say where it is
You
probably
always leave
going
us
to
on
be published.
cliffhangers.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave you on red here, but you will know when it comes out, and where. And then beyond that, I'm doing more keynotes. So that's something that I'm excited about, like the invitations to speak about these ideas. So that's what's coming up next.
Amazing. Amazing. So exciting.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming back for a third time to Gava Bam. Like you always, I think, kind of like tickle our brains in like really fun ways. And so it's always a joy having you here. Come back
Thank you.
anytime.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me.
being here. Of
Thank you.
course. She said her first name is a privilege, not necessarily a secret, but a privilege. I'm not hiding it, she said. I'm not putting it away for anyone's comfort, though, but I'm reserving it. Oh, and I loved it so much. Because a woman whose entire life work is helping people be seen, and she still decides every single time who gets to hold the fullest version of her name, she makes you earn it. She asks for your consent before she hands it over. The more recognized she becomes, the more deliberately she reserves. Oh, and I love the dichotomy of it all. Because how many of us actually do the opposite? How many of us hand over every part of ourselves the second someone opens the door? Our stories, our names, our energy, our Sundays, because we were taught that being let in means giving it all up. No? But I think the remedio that Chloe gave us is that being seen was never supposed to cost you everything you are. You can be recognized and reserve what is yours. You can walk into the room like they already know you're brilliant and still decide what you keep for the few who earned it. And that's the opposite of hiding. It's actually power. It's the kind of power you were never taught you had. None of us were ever taught we had. So let's sit on that for a second. And if it stirred a little bit in you, the ache of overgiving, overproving, handing yourself over just to belong, that is actually the conditioning worth understanding. And in my body of work, that's what I call calladita culture. I have a free quiz that will give you the language for the pattern you've been living without a name for. It takes you like 3 to 5 minutes. It's free. Head over to cafeconpam.com/quiz and uncover the truth. Thank you so much for being here. Nos vemos a la próxima. Y bueno, stay shining.
Sabrosura pa' ti que